Hey guys, let's get more news from Dallas Cowboys, but first don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your like. Jerry Jones generates Cowboys trade rumors after radio interview. The Dallas Cowboys trade market has been uncharacteristically hot recently, and last night, Jerry Jones hinted at even more moves on the interior defensive line. Basically, the fans' introduction to the Jordan Phillips trade might be old news by the start of the year. Speaking on 105.3 The Fan, Jones noted that there will be chances towards the end of training camp to trade with teams for additional defensive line support. Sounds like the Cowboys aren't done trying to improve their defensive line. Jerry Jones on at 10:53 The Fan while talking about some of their recent defensive line additions. Sometimes in the interior, defensive line, you get a chance to do some things with other clubs right at the Dallas. Weakness on the interior D-line has been well documented, and as good a pickup as I feel Phillips is, he is not the kind of player that automatically fixes an issue. He is more of a supplemental player. So, as Jones alludes to here, they should still be in the trade market for more help as teams trim their rosters. The question is, who they target, how much does it cost, and where will they fit in on the roster? Let's talk about two potential trade options on the interior defensive line. Jerry Jones generates trade rumors after radio interview. Jonathan Allen, shooting for the stars. Somewhere in a perfect universe, CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott and Micah Parsons are extended, and the Cowboys trade for Jonathan Allen to complete the defense. This two-time Pro Bowler and career-long commander was the subject of trade rumors earlier this offseason, and again in the early summer, and there are some new developments that make trading him to Dallas fairly reasonable. Washington Commanders' Jonathan Allen has expressed hesitation about being part of a rebuild, but the team does not expect to trade him. Firstly, despite a division rival trade being unlikely, there is a wild card in trade discussions between Dallas and Washington. Dan Quinn, the former Cowboys DC, could have strong interest in some former draft picks that the Cowboys may cut to get the roster to 53, Viliami Fehoko or Israel Mukuamu, for example. Moving off of Allen, who is entering his second-to-last year on contract, would also clear the way for 2024 second-round pick, defensive tackle Johnny Newton. Look, I'm not naive, this would be a pretty surprising turn of events at this point. However, one or two Quinn guys and a fourth-round pick could be enough to get the guy who could be the final piece of the defensive puzzle in Dallas. It really just comes down to how much value this front office want to give up so close before the season, and if Washington has any interest in moving him. If the Cowboys trade for another interior defensive lineman, it would be silly not to kick the tires on Allen. Jerry Jones generates trade rumors after radio interview. Taven Bryan, 2018 Dallas draft target. If you can remember all the way back to the 2018 NFL draft cycle, you will remember just how much the Cowboys loved then Florida Gator, Taven Bryan. The pass-rushing defensive tackle went on multiple visits with Dallas, and was firmly in contention to be drafted at the 19th spot. While the team ended up going with the recently retired Leighton Vander Esch, it could be Bryan who wears the star last. After a deeply disappointing run with his drafted team, the Jacksonville Jaguars, Bryan landed with the Colts after a stint with the Browns last year. Bryan was drafted as a 3-technique defensive tackle with pass rush upside. Coincidentally, that is exactly what Dallas is still on the search for on the interior defensive line. Now, as I mentioned, Bryan did not actually live up to those expectations. He tallied just 5.5 sacks in his Jacksonville career, and has started only 40 out of 96 games at this point in his career. Yes, he is considered a bust, and considering how much he is playing for Indianapolis early in the preseason, it seems possible he could be cut before the season starts. Taven Bryan playing at this point into the preseason is not a good sign at all. This is exactly where Dallas comes in. Remember the Jones quote from earlier, and the move they made to trade for Phillips. The nose tackle spot is filled, now is the time to find a low-risk, roster cut candidate on another team with 3 technique ability. With how much this front office loves to target guys they liked in old drafts, a Cowboys trade for Bryan would not shock me in the least. Fill a hole with a guy you once liked on the cheap? That is right up the Dallas wheelhouse. Dallas Cowboys controversial owner Jerry Jones sparks even more trade rumors with recent comments. The Dallas Cowboys, and owner Jerry Jones in particular, have received a great deal of criticism this offseason for the way they have decided to build their roster ahead of the 2024 season. Tony Pollard, who rushed for at least 1,000 yards in each of the past 2 seasons, left for the Tennessee Titans in free agency and was replaced by Ezekiel Elliott. While Elliott is one of the best running backs in Cowboys history, he is coming off of the worst season of his career with the New England Patriots. 8-time Pro Bowl left tackle Tyron Smith departed Dallas to play for the New York Jets. The Cowboys decided to use their first-round pick in the 2024 NFL Draft on Tyler Guyton, but otherwise planned on filling the left tackle role internally. Chuma Edoga, the lineman the Cowboys started at left tackle in their last preseason game, suffered a significant toe injury and will most likely start the season on injured reserve. And then, of course, there are the ongoing contract negotiations with quarterback Dak Prescott, wide receiver CeeDee Lamb, and linebacker Micah Parsons that have dominated headlines. There is certainly a great deal of questions that surround the Cowboys roster right now, and Jones added more of them with his most recent comments to a Dallas sports radio show. Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones hints that the team is not done adding players. Earlier this offseason, Jones generated a great deal of blowback from fans when he said that he was definitely all in to win in 2024. Looking at the state of the Cowboys roster, it is easy to see why fans were upset with the comments. However, Jones also recently told 105.3 The Fan in Dallas that he is not done building the Cowboys roster. According to John Machota of The Athletic, Jones said, "Sometimes in the interior, defensive line, you get a chance to do some things with other clubs right at the end of training camp, in that area. What you're seeing right now is important. It's important to see these guys take reps, but tonight won't be the final pieces to the puzzle." A few days ago, the Cowboys acquired interior defensive lineman Jordan Phillips in a trade with the New York Giants. It does not sound like Jones is done trying to make trades. Could Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys bring in a former NFL draft target? If interior defensive line depth is what Jones is looking to add on the trade market, Mark Heaney of Inside the Star suggests that Dallas could go after Taven Bryan, whom the Cowboys were thinking about drafting in 2018. If you can remember all the way back to the 2018 NFL draft cycle, you will remember just how much the Cowboys loved then Florida Gator, Taven Bryan, Heaney wrote. He tallied just 5.5 sacks in his Jacksonville career and has started only 40 out of 96 games at this point in his career. Yes, he is considered a bust, and considering how much he is playing for Indianapolis early in the preseason, it seems possible he could be cut before the season starts. With how much this front office loves to target guys they liked in old drafts, a Cowboys trade for Bryan would not shock me in the least. One has to wonder why Dallas would trade for a player that is going to get cut anyway, but if they do not want to risk losing him to a different team on the open market, it could possibly make sense. The Cowboys desperately need their superstar wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb. However, Lamb has been holding out of training camp due to a contract dispute. This has caused a bit of tension between Lamb and the Cowboys organization. Dallas recently offered a new contract to CeeDee, and here is the latest about that offer. CeeDee Lamb's latest contract offer. Cowboy fans will be glad to hear that the team has made a new offer to their superstar wide receiver. The two sides have not been particularly close on a deal so far this offseason. The offer is just under $33 million per season, which would make him the second highest paid receiver in the league, behind only Justin Jefferson. Previously, Cowboys owner Jerry Jones made a comment that the organization wasn't in a hurry to get a deal done. However, that is clearly not the case now that Dallas has made a new offer. Lamb wanted to become the highest non-paid quarterback in the NFL, which would mean getting a contract worth more than 4 years for $140 million, $110 million guaranteed, Justin Jefferson's contract. Currently, it is unclear what Lamb's asking price is, and whether he still wants to be paid the highest non-quarterback. This is by far the strongest offer the Cowboys have made thus far, and CeeDee will very likely strongly consider this offer. It is completely understandable why Lamb is holding out for a top contract. He is coming off of an absolutely stellar season, catching 135 passes for 1,749 yards and 12 touchdowns. He set 2 Cowboys franchise records for single-season receptions and yards. Lamb accounted for over 1/3 of the team's passing yards last season. CeeDee once again showed he is one of the best players in the league, and not just one of the best receivers. Tight end Jake Ferguson had the second most receiving yards for Dallas last year, totaling 761 yards. That is still almost a full 1,000 yards behind Lamb. He means everything to the Cowboys' offense, and wants to be paid as such.